Hello, and welcome to the Badhumanist look at the Balance Druid. In this video, I'll be going through passives and abilities, uh, looking at the multiple talent rows, talent setups, looking for things like synergy, usefulness, how fun they are. I'll then show a bit of the rotation, as well as give some insight into how the different stats might compare to one another, how they're going to affect the overall playstyle of the spec. Wrapping that up with, of course, overall thoughts and hopes for the future. So let's start where we normally do with the passives here. So Mastery here is Starlight. Now they've basically separated out all of the individual spells. This is basically to keep from having masteries affecting things like trinket procs or other kind of effects along those natures. So basically it increases Moonfire, Sunfire, and Starfall damage, by a certain percent, increases Star Surge damage by a certain percent, and then again the effects of the empowerments by an additional effect as well. We get the Looter by 31, Solar by 15, and again you can see how both of these would scale with your mastery values. Of course, we have our other like Flight Form, Feline Swiftness passives here as well. This again comes from taking the Feral Druid Affinity, which I have. Empowerments here. So they really broke out the two empowerments here, and I really actually like this system mixed in with the Eclipse I'll talk about next, which is Star Surge grants you Looter and Solar empowerments. So again, your Looter empowerment is increases the damage of your next Lunar Strike by 67% and reduces its cast time by 15%. And Solar empowerment again causes your next Solar Wrath to explode for additional percent. Now again, I am taking Soul to Force, which improves that. Let's switch off of that so we can see the base levels actually. So yeah, 51% normally and 25% would be the normal base levels. Again, those are both also mess with Mastery as well. But then, yeah, the Solar Empowerment again explodes. You can accumulate 3 of each empowerment, and Eclipse allows each of your spells, Lunar Strike and Solar Wrath, to actually have a chance to grant you the opposite empowerment, which actually kind of leads into the kind of weaving playstyle that we're going to be seeing here with the Balance Druid. So Astral Influence, again, is the base passive for Druid as well, increases the range by 5 yards. Aquatic Form, of course, you still have. Moving into the talents here, let's kind of take off this for a second, so I can have actual dash. So we have, again, Swipe only is a bear cat form, not worried too much about that. We have Sunfire, so a quick beam of solar light burns the enemy for 272 nature damage, and then an additional 2013 nature damage over 18 seconds to the primary target and all enemies within 8 yards. So this has a natural kind of cleave. So if I use it on these target dummies here, you'll see that, again, you get on all the targets there. Star Surge, again, this is your Astral Power Spender. This launches a surge of stellar energies at the target, dealing a bunch of astral damage. It also grants you, again, lunar and solar empowerment. You have Starfall, calls on a wave of falling stars at the target area, dealing a certain amount of damage over 8 seconds. These can be overlapped. So again, if you have 50 astral power, so say you have 100, you could actually put down 2 of them. And they would both exist. So you can actually kind of get pretty big patches of Starfall here. Hopefully you don't pull the entire instance, as has happened in the past. So Soothe is here as well. Again, Druids are one of the few classes that actually have a Soothe. I believe the only other Soothe comes from a Beastmaster pet. So again, Resto, Balance, and Feral, I believe, all have Soothe. So that's nice. Again, if it's actually going to be useful in a raid, that's going to be very good utility. We have Solar Wrath here as well. This is again your solar ability. Hurl a ball of solar energy at the target is dealing 620 nature damage. It also generates astral power. 1.2 second cast here. Solar Beam summons a beam of solar light over enemy's target location, like so. Interrupting and target and silencing all enemies in the beam. Again, lasts for 8 seconds. 1 minute cooldown. Shreds a cat form ability. Not worry about that. Rip, same thing. Revive, of course, is your normal revive here. There's a cast on this, but again, that's normal. Renewals a talent. Remove Corruption, again, removes all curse and poison effects, 8 second cooldown. You have Regrowth, which again is usable in Moonkin form. If you're in bear or in cat form, it will pull you out, so that's nice. You can use that there. Rebirth, this is your battle res. It does have a cast time now. So basically all of the battle reses have some kind of effect on them. So obviously Soulstone has the pretty long cast. Rebirth has a cast, and then the Death Knight one costs runic power. So it is instant runic power. But the nice thing about the Druid one is you get 100% health and 20% mana, whereas the other ones I believe are a bit lower on the health pool. So that's quite nice. 10-minute cooldown still, and it still has the same shared in the raid group stuff. Rig against a cat, again, I have Feral Affinity, like I mentioned, so that's why all these cat abilities are here. Prowl, again, still a cat thing. Moonkin Form, the Moonkin Form, again, increases your damage of all your spells by 10%, and then your armor by 125, so a little bit of a nerf, I believe, on the armor you get there. Now, your single target attacks against you have a chance to make your next Lunar Strike instant. So, again, if you are getting whacked on, you have a chance for that to happen. Moonfire, again, is your dot here, your lunar dot. So it gets a quick beam that does a little bit of damage, but then an additional amount over 22 seconds. I am talented into a higher damage on this ability. It can generate 3 astral power. Mass Entanglement, again, is a talent. Mangle's a bear ability. Lunar Strike, it can call down a strike of lunar energy, causing arcane damage to the target, and then arcane damage to all their enemies within 8 yards. So again, with this, when you call it down, you do get the kind of the AoE here as well. You can go to my combat log, you can see all 4 targets here are hit. Innervate's still here as a healer main, not liking this. I'm not a fan of Innervate or any mana external that is single target. So I wish again that they nerfed this and made AoE. Almost like the old Shadow Priest mana ability that I can't remember the name of right now. But yeah, something like that I think would be better than this. I don't like the single target ability. I'm okay with Resto Druid having it because they're going to use it on themselves and that can just be part of their spec. And honestly, Resto Druids need it. But unless you're bringing 3 Boomkins and every healer gets to Innervate, I'm not a fan of this. Hibernate forces the enemy target to sleep for up to 40 seconds. Growl's a bear ability. This isn't a talent. I think that's, of course, from the Pharaoh. Entangling Roots. Roots the enemy in place for 30 seconds on a cast time. Here's the regular dash. Again, 2-minute cooldown. 60% increased speed, 10 seconds. Celestial Alignment is your main 3-minute cooldown here. So it increases the damage done of all your spells by 50% and grants you 15% haste for 20 seconds. Here, of course, your forms. And then Barkskin you do have as well as, again, as a nice DR here. 1-minute cooldown, 20% damage reduction. And also prevents damage from delaying spellcasts. You can use a bolt basically whenever. Okay, let's look at the talents here now. So, on the 15 row, we have Nature's Balance. So, while you're in combat, you generate 2 astral power every 3 seconds. And then out of combat, it rebalances to 50 instead of depleting. The problem is that the speed that it goes up, and here I'll talent into it so we can kind of see it here. The amount that it goes up is relatively slow here. It takes a good while to get up there. You can kind of see it's not even like 2 a second. It's like 2 point something a second almost. Again, it's kind of the same idea as what you're getting in combat. It should go faster out of combat. Yeah, this talent is kind of weird, and I guess it's nice to be able to start the pull with astral power. You can actually kind of start the pull with a Star Surge, I guess. But you generate astral power so quickly, this doesn't actually help. It's not like astral power is hard to come by. And so going from pull to pull, you shouldn't really have a problem getting some. So not the biggest fan of that. Warrior of Elune, sadly, I think it might be like a automatic go-to, unless, again, I'm just absolutely wrong about Nature's Balance. So your next 3 Lunar Strikes are instant cast and generate 4% additional astral power. That's great because the cast time on Lunar Strike is, of course, a little bit higher here. So having this every 4 seconds is great. You can actually, again, use it, and it's just your next 3. So you could basically macro it to this ability, and then after you use your 3rd one, every 4 to 5 seconds after that, you'll get your next 3 for free. And again, it allows you to kind of stack up your Lunar Strikes, Warrior of Elune, and then bam, kind of like, machine gun off those 3. Force of Nature, moment cooldown. Again, this generates astral power. All 3 of these are, in a way, generators in some way, shape, or form, because, again, you get the extra 40% astral power from those Lunar Strikes with Warrior of Elune. 1-minute cooldown, 20 astral power, summon 3 Treants. They still taunt, which kind of sucks. So, again, you're not really going to be using them in raids. Now, I don't know if they can taunt raid bosses. If they couldn't taunt raid bosses, they would actually be okay to use this. But I just think Warrior Balloon just is overall better talent in this row. But again, I can always be wrong. 30 row, you have Tiger Dash. This is probably my favorite here. It basically is the replacement for Displacer Beast. Renew, again, it gives you an ability to, on a 1.5 minute cooldown, to get a nice big heal on yourselves. Wild Charge is also kind of interesting here. So again, depending on what form you're in, you get different abilities here. You can kind of see the list here. For Moonkin form, it allows you to bound backwards. So again, if I take this here, let me actually get into Moonkin form. Yeah, boom, there you go. Kind of jump backwards. The cool thing is if you're not shape shifted, I'll wait till it comes back up, it allows you to kind of like fly to an ally's position, and it even kind of like gives you a little radical thing here. If I can pull this up, right? So you can be able to click on an ally and then jump to them, boom, like that. Move back to Tiger's Dash when that's off cooldown. 45 row, again, your choice of affinity here. You basically are looking at the, you're looking at the passives here. So Ysera's Gift heals you for 3% of your maximum health every 5 seconds. And if you're at full health, you get to heal a injured party or raid member, which again can be good utility. Guardian Affinity gives you reduced damage taken at all times. Probably going to be quite good for Mythic Plus. Obviously very good for something like PvP. In a raid scenario, though, it's not bad to have, but I do think the other two would be better. Because again, either having that kind of raid little passive heal, not much, but again, at least it's something, or increase movement speed by 15%. Now, one of these would probably be what you would be taking for Mythic Plus. It really, I think, is going to depend upon the damage we're seeing and whether or not having Bear Form to be able to kind of like maybe take a big hit would be useful to kind of avoid a one-shot, but we'll obviously wait and see. 60 row is kind of like your CC row in a way. You have Typhoon, knocks things back, 30-second cooldown, Mass Entanglement, again, roots a bunch of things all in a region here. So again, put a target there. There we go. And then, of course, Mighty Bash, which is just a 50-second, 5-second stun. 5 seconds is a pretty long time, actually, in BfA as far as stun length is concerned. So that's actually pretty decent. 75 row, we have a choice of Incarnation. This basically is an empowered celestial alignment, and again, it actually replaces it. So if you look at the differences, again, originally with celestial alignment, you have 15% damage, 15% haste, 20 seconds. With this, you have 25% damage, 15% haste for 30 seconds. So again, you kind of just buffs this cooldown that you already kind of have. The Star-Lord talent here, so your Star Surge and Star Fall grant you haste for 20 seconds, but it doesn't refresh the duration. You can stack them 3 times. So again, this would be one of those things where you'd want to basically get up to, as much astral power as you possibly could, and then rattle off, 2 Star Surges back to back. And then again, start getting that 6% haste, get the next one off as quickly as possible, which wouldn't be hard. Again, you could basically do that. Pop Warrior Balloon, you're going to get some empowered lunar strikes. And again, you'd probably be at that point pretty much back to your 40 astral power again, get that third one up. But again, after that, your other ones are just going to basically be just there. It doesn't ever refresh. So after that, you're just going to be at that 9% haste. And again, when it falls off, then you can do it again. So you'd probably want to be monitoring this so that to make sure that when it came off, you knew to make sure to kind of channel a bunch of them in there to get that haste stack back up. You also have Soul of the Forest here, so increases the damage bonus from Looter and Solar Empowerment by 30%. Again, this is going to scale nicely with your Mastery, because again, Mastery kind of is affecting that as well. And this happens after the Mastery is done. It also reduces the astral power of Starfall, so again, some good Mythic Plus AoE synergy here as well. Again, I'm not honestly sure which is going to be the best for the different situations. It's going to really just come down to tuning between the 3 of them, and again, I'm sure Sims will let us know. 90 row, you have Stellar Drift, so increases Starfall's radius by 20%, damage by 25%, and then allows you to cast while moving while within that area. So again, when you put down your Starfall, you have a bigger Starfall area, and again, like I said, you can put down 2, and then you have this big kind of area you can basically cast while moving in. Could be kind of useful for Mythic Plus, could even be useful for some raid encounters where, again, you basically just put it down to be able to move. Again, we'll have to obviously wait and see there. Definitely can see its value, though, for PvP Mythic Plus, though. Twin Moons, so So this again allows your Moonfire to cleave basically. So it deals increased damage, and then it also hits another target nearby. Um, so again, just allows your Moonfire to cleave. Again, you still get the increased damage bonus. So even single target, there's a benefit. Stellar Flare adds a third dot to the spec. So it again burns a target for a very small amount initially, and then a lot over 24 seconds. So again, you have 18 seconds on Sunfire, you have 22 seconds on Moonfire, and then you have 24 seconds on Stellar Flare. Um, and again, if you look, the damage on that is not too high, but this definitely is going to help for things like multi-dot cleaving across. It also generates a good bit of astral power, but again, does have a cast time. And if you look, it's the same amount of astral power generated by Solar Wrath, 1.2 second cast, 1.2 second cast. But again, this of course does more damage than that. So again, if you think about a priority system, that of course would be on top of your Solar Wrath. But again, it has the same kind of cast time in the last 24 seconds. So again, just different kind of play styles. If you want the third dot, it can get quite hectic with a lot of other things going on. I will mention that. That's why I think I like Twin Moons personally. But again, it's going to come down to tuning between those two for kind of a rating. Stellar Drift off is going to have good synergy in Mythic Plus. But again, honestly, all of these do because they all have some kind of AoE cleave multi-dot type of synergy. 100 row, we have Shooting Stars. So Moonfire and Sunfire damage over time has a chance to call down a falling star, dealing damage and generating astral power. So again, this 100 row is also a astral power generator as well. And I believe this works well in big packs where you can kind of, again, multi-cross dot and have a lot of those dots out. And then each one has a chance to do this. So again, when you start to get to like 2, 3, 4 targets, this talent is super strong. Fury of Elune works best at the 1, 2, 3 target range. Again, it's a 1 minute cooldown, calls out a beam of energy that follows the enemy, dealing a bunch of damage over 8 seconds to all nearby targets. It also, like I said, will follow the one. It moves kind of slow though, so you can actually like most targets will move faster than this can go, so it's kind of like trying to catch up with it. It does generate 40 astral power over its duration. And then we have New Moon. This by far is your best pure single target talent, no question about it. You have the best astral power generation, as well as overall just damage. And again, this is the New Moon, Half Moon, Full Moon sequence here. It's a 25-second recharge. This was brought down from earlier on the beta. So it's a 75-second total cycle, so about 1 minute 15 seconds or 1.25 minutes. Total cycle here. It's the same thing where it generates 10, then 20, then I believe 40. We can even take a look at it here. So again, let's see. Yeah, so the first one, of course, is quick time. The second one, again, yes, is 20 astral power with a longer cast. And then your full moon is, 40 astral power. And again, a very long 2.4 second cast. But again, boom. Feels good. So by far this is your strongest single target talent you have here. Like I said, Fury of the Loom, once you get the 2 targets, is I believe better. Though its astral power generation again is a bit off because this again is 40 astral power in a minute. This is 70 astral power in a minute in 75 seconds. So overall power is higher on the New Moon talent as far as just astral power generation. But again, I don't think that's the biggest deal. Astral power generation is not a problem. And then a Shooting Star works best at the 4, 5, 6 targets where, again, you're really getting that multi-dot, lots of Sunfires out there. Again, you're probably taking Twin Moons and, again, getting a lot of Moonfires out there. So for that kind of stuff, that would probably be your best talent. All right, so let's show a little bit of a rotation here. I will take New Moon for this. Yeah, I'll keep that. Yeah, this all looks good to me. Okay, so now before I get into this, I do want to kind of go over what I was trying to figure out myself, which is the basic kind of priority here. Because for a single target in AoE, what's better kind of changes. Because again, you have Sunfire, which again for AoE obviously is good because again you get that kind of natural cleave to all enemies in the 8 yards. Whereas Moonfire does more damage single target, right? So if you look at the damage, Sunfire does less, but it automatically cleaves. Whereas Moonfire does more damage, but again, unless you're talented into it, won't get any cleave. Now the opposite switches. So Solar Wrath is again just a pure single target, but when empowered, again bringing that back up, when it empowers, it ends up exploding for an additional 33% damage of its regular damage to all nearby enemies, and then also again, of course, has its quicker cast time. Now Lunar Strike is one that naturally will hit other enemies, but again does less damage normally in the DPS sense than Solar Wrath. So baseline, without any empowerments, single target, Solar Wrath is better than Lunar Strike. However, when it's empowered, Lunar Strike is better than even an empowered Solar Wrath single target. So again, single target of empowered Lunar Strike again is going to be stronger than an empowered Solar Wrath. But again, they're both going to be useful in different ways. Of course, Star Surge, again, is one of your top priorities. And then, of course, the new moon cycle as well is in there. So there's a lot of stuff to kind of keep up with this spec. Because, again, you have 2 dots, possibly up to 3 dots. You then also have your empowerments, trying not to cap there. You're trying to not cap on Astral Power, of course. And, of course, using your Star Surges as well. Now, with either in the 100 row, New Moon or Fury of a Loon, either one's basically going to be taking that place. Again, if you take Shooting Stars, it's a little bit simpler. Which is good because it's going to be simpler when you have more targets and you're doing a lot more multi-dotting. So again, there is a kind of interesting synergy there where when you are multi-dotting, you have a talent ability that helps simplify the rotation a little bit. So let's get into this. So again, put my dots up. Get my new moon out, half moon, get a Star Surge, get a full moon. Get those out there. As you can see, I intentionally took the Wrath early. So I'm actually going to kind of build up here a little bit. So I get to 3. There we go. Now I can start getting these off. Moves up. Again, as you can see, already failed at keeping my dots up. But I'll be interested to see exactly how this plays out best, because there's a lot of different management strategies. You can either kind of build up just Solar Wrathing for a while and then using multiple Star Surges to again kind of cap out your charges and then kind of go into like a dump phase with Lunar Strike. Because again, Lunar Strike is only better when it's empowered. Get that half moon off. Of course, you don't want to waste any of your charges. You also don't want to cap on Astral Power. And again, like I mentioned, you're also, of course, keeping up your dots. So you can kind of see how there's a lot of management going on here that can definitely get overwhelming at times, especially for someone like myself who's not played a Boomkin before. But it's not too bad. Again, there are ways of simplifying the spec. You can definitely take a couple more passive talents. Again, I wouldn't be worrying about my damage right now because, again, like I said, I'm not playing this properly. That being said, I will say that both Fatal and Balance, I think, could use a little bit of an aura buff. Their playstyle's great. I really think the Balance, again, has a lot going for it in the positive department here, in the good department. But I will say that, again, even when I was playing them quite well and focused, the damage they're doing was a bit underwhelming. And so, again, I either hope that, again, they scale really well, or, again, they get a nice little aura buff, because even on this current build, when I was checking out some of the other classes, which a lot of them they have brought down, they need to be a little bit higher up than what they are. They burst well in the beginning, but they definitely fall off later on, and it could just be that this is the case because they're leaving room for multi-dot. Right now, that doesn't explain the Pharaoh, but again, I talk about that in the Pharaoh video. But for Boomkins especially, I think that the single target damage, lack of single target damage, is due to their ability to AoE cleave. So again, let's show what I mean by that by getting some DPS here on these target dummies. So let's get this going, get that going, boom, boom, and again, get that. And again, here, I can even drop one of those. Drop another one on there. And you can start to see how this can slowly get out of control. Just kind of multi down and back up again. So yeah, you can see how that damage can get out of control quite quickly when you have the multi-targets to dot. So my guess for why the single target damage is a bit low is because they're kind of like putting a buffer in for that, which is fine. Again, I'm not even spec like again, I would probably be taking Shooting Stars or Fury of the Loon even for AoE. Definitely would switch up my talents a bit here. And even then, I'm doing really good AoE damage. So this is obviously where Boomkin's strength lies. Again, Mythic Plus, AoE situations, going to be very strong. Anytime you can multi-dot, cross-dot, that's going to be very, very useful. So let's move into the stats here. So as before, haste is going to be super strong, right? You have a lot of casted abilities. You have dots that are going to scale with haste. And so all those things are going to lead to haste being very, very powerful. Again, your main cooldown gives you haste, which kind of, again, is a sense of, yeah, the more haste, the more spells you can get out, the better you're going to do. Crit, again, is going to be interesting. Again, there's no direct, like, crit tie, per se, as far as, again, like, something that, again, scales off crits differently than what crit normally does. So crit and versatility are going to just come down to their basic scaling. Mastery, however, I definitely think is going to be strong. It's increasing all the damage you want to increase. And again, with the talents, like I was talking about with, Soul of the Forest, you're going to get increased bonuses to your mastery there. And mastery does scale pretty decently here for the Boomkin. So I would not be surprised to see like a haste mastery, again with like crit and verse, of course, being the third and fourth stats, but definitely haste mastery being, I think, two of the very strong stats for the Boomkin. But of course, we'll wait and see what the Sims say to know for sure. So overall thoughts are, as I mentioned, I do think a slight aura buff. If there's a way maybe of just buffing, honestly, something like Solar Wrath possibly, or Moonfire, again, more of their single target spells, maybe even get a buff to something like Star Surge. Things that, again, are going to help them do more single target damage, but not increase or make their AoE go out of control might be nice. And I do think that their talent layout's quite good. I think they have a lot of good choices in each row. There's not a case where it's like, oh yeah, pick whatever I want for AoE. It's kind of like, okay, there's some single target, some AoE in each of the DPS rows that I think is again quite nice and useful. The spec feels good. It's a lot to manage, but some people like that. Again, it feels like a true. It's interesting because, again, you're not just dealing with dots. So it's not like your Affliction Warlock where you're just managing dots. You have dots. You can get up to 3 dots, but you also have this very interesting kind of like builder, spender, plus empowerment proc. So if you think about like some of the 3 pillars of DPS with, again, dot management, procs, again, resource management, right? You have all those things, right? So again, it's a very engaging, very fun DPS to play. And we'll have to just wait and see, of course, how the tuning plays out. They bring good utility, of course, as most druids do. So yeah, they definitely should be a fun spec to be playing in BfA. So if you like this video, go ahead and give me a like. If you dislike a video, go ahead and give me a dislike. If you have any comments or get any corrections, anything like that, please leave them down in the comment section below. The Resto Druid video is going to be, I think, the next video that I make. And then, of course, moving on to the Shaman class after that. So again, if you're looking forward to anything like that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in my future videos.